My name is Francesca Fernandez, and today I'm going to talk about the motor control, which is very important for you to understand. So we're going to have a general view of which area of the brain are involved in the motor control. So this is a very general understanding of how the brain is going to control your muscle movement. So here I represented a sagittal cut of your brain with our primary cerebral cortex here in blue at the pre-central gyrus, as we discussed before. There is two associative motor area, one called supplementary motor area, which is located around here, so I'm going to draw it here, and another one called premotor area, we're going to call it PMA, okay, which is going to be around here, right? And basically they're going to work together to be able to inform the primary motor cortex to how to regulate our muscle. What is a simple message? Which muscle need to be contracting to be able to achieve the movement plan? Well, so these two associative motor areas are going to work with other brain structure. One in particular, for the CMA, will be a nuclei present into the midbrain. So I'm going to draw them in here. Okay, so this nuclei, we're going to call them basal nuclei. That's the one, it's a group of neurons organized into a nucleus, a lot of neurons at the same time having the same function, going to release the same type of neurotransmitter. And we're going to have several types of them, so the putamen, the globus pallidus, and one called the substantia nigra. It's going to be quite deep down into your brain, so not at the surface. So this is quite deep down into your brain. And you probably heard of the substantia nigra before. It's going to secrete, release a neurotransmitter called dopamine. And actually, dopamine, if you don't have enough produced in this nucleus called substantia nigra, in this structure, well, in this case, you're going to develop something called Parkinson's disease. Okay, so you can see how these basal nuclei are very important to regulate the coordination of your movement and fine movement. As you know, people lacking Parkinson's are basically able to do very fine movement. They're shaking a lot. So hopefully help you to remember which nuclei is associated, involved in this type of movement. There is another brain structure very important, and associated with this associative area will be the cerebellum. So here we've got the cerebellum here. Okay. So basically the cerebellum, very important because it's going to receive information from the sensory neuron coming, and it's going to then basically inform working with our associative area here. So basically the cerebellum, as you know, is a structure which is important for controlling balance and coordination of movements. There is actually a lot of research in this little brain, this is a little brain, we call it a little brain because it's got its own reservoir of network, in this little formation here on the back of your brain. And actually it's essential for controlling the posture, balance, and motor coordination. Recent research identified as well a role of this brain structure into memory and like motor memory, like how you ride a bike, for example, and as well emotions. So this is quite a recent finding. So if we go back to our motor control here, you can see the cerebellum is going to talk to the premotor area, one associative motor area, the PMA. So these two, they're going to be buddy and work together. Okay, so basically the cerebellum is going to inform the premotor area, which is very important for basically integrating, you know, like the information of the cerebellum, which are going to gather the different cue of the environment, you know, like the visual, you know, everything around. So for example, if the information for cerebellum, if I walk up the stair, if the information for cerebellum come to the PMA and say, here, there is a step coming, well, I will have to contract my quadriceps to be able to put up my leg, okay? So that is kind of information which is going to travel to the PMA and then inform the primary motor cortex. So what about this one here, the supplementary motor area? Well, this one is going to work with a basal nuclei here, okay? And is going to basically give information of a pre-planned sequence. So for example, when I'm writing or when I'm playing piano, it's something involving two limbs, two hands, 2 foot. So it's all sequence movements, okay? Pre-planned, we know about it, okay? So that's basically what is this, you know, like a body. They're going to work together toward that. So basically, you have the main 4 member, but at the same time, I must say, and I don't want to confuse you, but you need to probably know this for the future, we're going to have actually an influence as well of the sensory cortical area, which are going to inform as well the premotor area. And we're going to have the frontal cortex, which actually as well is going to inform, you know, like this area as well. But what you need to remember, you know, like is basically which brain structure is involved with which associative motor area. So let's do a little diagram of what we discussed in a brain here. All right. So I'm going to, so I did this one in white, so I'm going to try to do the same. So we've got the cerebellum here, which is going to work with the premotor area, and inform is going to receive, and I did this in blue, is going to receive information from the sensory cue, you know, like it's going to know what's happening in the environment to make sure, for example, there is a table here. If I need to walk on a front, well, my visual cue are going to help me to go around the table, all right? So sensory, if I leave it like that, it's going to be sensory input here is very important. And you know what it's going to do as well, the cerebellum. So let's put together, and I'm going to explain again. And here we've got the basal nuclei. All right. So what is important to know is basically this one we discuss about, okay, the main function is actually to have pre-planned sequence, ready, sequence, and as well something B, manual action, for example, using your 2 hands, okay? And the other ones are going to have information from the environments, you know, sensory information of the environment, and it's going to coordinate and adapt the answer according to this information. So these 2 associative areas are going to communicate to a primary motor area And actually, as I mentioned, they're doing all the job of integrating this associative motor area. They're doing all the job of integrating, getting all the information, sending simple message to the primary motor area to say, okay, contract this muscle, okay? So basically, this area of the cerebral cortex are going to send information through the motor neuron to the muscle to basically contract. So when the muscle contracts, you're going to have kind of a feedback, because if the muscle, if you're like, you contract too hard, actually I'm going to put my, I'm going to basically put my leg, if I want to go up the steps, I'm going to put my leg too high, I can lose my balance. So you can see there is a feedback here all the time going to the sensory input, to the cerebellum to say, oh, hang on, we need to adjust to make sure, like we provide the right information to the muscle. So there is actually like a cycle of this occurring all the time. So this is basically how your movement are controlled. There's a lot of happening actually, like a lot of region in your brain involved. And the diagram here should give you all the information you need to know so far for this unit.